If you're watching in the United States, on the East Coast or on the West Coast, good morning. If you're watching in Europe, kind of good afternoon. And yeah, today we're discussing Trump's tariffs because that's been a highly requested thing I guess everyone's asking me about. I mean, I went live yesterday and everyone was flooding my comments. Like, I had like 10 comments asking me about the tariffs and Trump and what I think about it. But I want to wait a couple seconds, give it a minute or two, let a couple people join in. Then we'll get to the discussion. Hello, welcome into the live stream. I'm discussing Trump's tariffs. Are they a good thing or are they a bad thing? So my short answer is, I don't really have a short answer. A lot of people just give a flat answer. They say, oh, it's good or it's bad. My personal opinion, it's much more complicated than that. I think Trump's tariffs will, long term help bring jobs back to the United States because of a lot of our jobs like industrial factories, farming, and stuff like that have all been outsourced by other countries, especially cars and stuff like that. Before Tesla, American automakers were pretty much failing. There wasn't really any big automakers that were from the United States of America. I mean, there was Ford, which I guess you can argue was pretty much the only one doing good business. And even them, they were on a slow decline. They were kind of struggling. They came out with some electric vehicles because they're trying to fit into the market. All these Chinese cars are going electric and all these cars are doing electric vehicles and stuff like that. But now I think we'll see much more, I believe Hyundai or maybe Honda, something like that, are building a factory in the US now because they want to avoid Trump's tariffs, which is a really good thing. And also, we got to take into account, what are we going to do for all these countries? Like Vietnam put a 90% tariff on us. Like, what are we going to do? Like, just say, oh, okay, can you please take that away? Can you just please take the tariff away? Please? Like, if all we had to do was ask, I'm pretty sure, they would have never put the tariff on us in the first place. I'm pretty sure every single tariff Trump placed was in retaliation. But if I'm wrong about any of that, you guys can correct me. But I also want to pull up some of Trump's numbers on the subject, I want to pull up some of the numbers on that and really show you guys the numbers for the tariffs and Trump. But yeah, welcome into the thing. I'm not saying everything Trump does is good. I don't really agree with a lot of stuff he does. A lot of people get misconstrued. A lot of Democrats attack me, say, stop talking about Trump. Stop posting about him. Don't talk about Elon. Don't talk about Trump. Well, two things I have to say about that. First thing I have to say is, look at all my popular videos. My most popular video of a live stream is 160,000 views, and it's about the election. So if I'm going to do something and talk about something that I like talking about, I like political debates, I like, sensible discussions about politics. If your opinion can't really be changed or if you can't see the other perspective, I'm not really going to try to argue with you because I think that can break a lot of people up and friends and family and good relationships like that. But basically, I'm just doing this to help grow my channel because the main thing that gets a lot of views right now, the main thing in the news, every news that you watch, like CNN, stuff like that, how do they get their money? They all get money trash talking or talking about Trump. That's pretty much the same thing I'm doing. I mean, I got a deal with YouTube. I got monetized and stuff like that, but I had my monetization taken away because unfortunately I broke terms and conditions posting one video, so I had to delete it. And now I'm going to reapply for monetization in about 2 months at kind of the middle of summer, end of summer, so I'll be able to start making money off my content. So the fastest way I can grow my channel is talking about political stuff and talking about Trump and talking about Elon and just talking about all the stuff in the news. I understand a lot of people don't like Trump. I understand a lot of people don't like Elon, but that's actually to my advantage as well. All these haters, they tune in to watch my discussions about politics and tariffs and stuff like that. it's growing my channel. Like, I have haters that follow me just because they don't like Trump and they want to come in and argue with me and they want to come and have an open discussion with me. I'm always open for that, but people got to realize I'm not doing this to piss anyone off. I'm not doing this because I really like Trump. I don't look at him like a god. I don't look at Elon like a god. The only person I worship is that actual God. And yeah, I'm just doing this to build my content and do political talks. You look like a liberal Camilla Harris supporter. I'm pretty sure I get more girls than you, but I appreciate your comment. I appreciate you coming in because you're helping drive my channel views. I would love to see what you look like compared to me, but I'm beautiful. I'm 6'5", and I get all the females' attention, so I'm happy with it. And I have a good personality too, other than my looks and my height. But we're talking about Trump's tariffs here. Trump's tariffs, are they a good thing or a bad thing? Short term, I think it'll hurt the economy. It could hurt a lot of prices and stuff if you're buying stuff from Amazon and you're buying stuff from like Chinese goods and stuff like that. But if you're buying American-made goods or you're buying stuff from American farmers, I think it can actually benefit, because it'll help a lot of the American farmers. But I actually want to pull up this video. Like, a lot of Chinese cars and German cars will, the price will go up.
Both foreign and domestic made goods equally. Also, how Trump's team plan to calculate the effective tariff rate, including not just the actual tariff, but also the impact of these non-tariff barriers, was always very unclear. This is why, going into Trump's announcement yesterday, there was a top of the existing 20% tariff, implying a 54% tariff overall, a 32% tariff on all Taiwanese imports.
Okay, let's stop this right here.
20% tariff.
So as you guys can see, Vietnam has a 90% tariff on us. What are we gonna do? Are we just gonna say, oh, please take away your tariff? Please take away your tariff. Please take away your tariff. Just beg them and beg them? Like, what negotiation can we do for Vietnam or stuff like that? No, we gotta do the retaliatory. We gotta defend our nation and defend our country. That's why we only put a 46% tariff on Vietnam. Even though they put a 90% tariff on us, we only put a 46% tariff on them. And also Taiwan, they put a 64% tariff on us. We buy all of our chip and our manufacturing all comes from there. But we only put a 32% tariff on them. Japan, 46% tariff they put on us first. Now we're going to put a 24% tariff on them. India put a 52% tariff on us. We had to put a 26% tariff back on them. South Korea, 50% tariff on us because they know that people want U.S. goods and we want to sell to Korea. Like, that's all it's about. It's just simple economics like that. And China already has a 67% tariff on us. All we did was put a 34% tariff back on them. If you want my honest opinion, I think that we're going a little bit too soft on them. But yeah, that's just my opinion.
On all EU
Even though people will say, oh, Trump, he's going so hard on the tariffs. If you want my honest opinion, if the European Union is going to put a 39% tariff on us, I would put a 50% tariff on them, even though it's probably going to destroy the economy short term. I would put a higher tariff on them. Yeah, China is putting much higher tariffs on us than we put on them.
10% tariff on all EU.
Cambodia, 97% tariff on U.S. goods. We only put a 49% tariff on them. Bangladesh, 74% on us. We put a 37% on them.
Imports. And how these tariffs could be justified as reciprocal is also really quite unclear. Now, according to the chart that Trump displayed during the speech, it looks like the flat tariffs being applied to all of these countries are either equal to or roughly half that of the effective rate that these countries apply to the US. As we said earlier, how Trump and his team calculated this effective rate, which apparently includes currency manipulation and non-tariff barriers, but we have no idea how they did it. Take the EU, for instance. Trump claims that the EU implies a 39% tariff on American imports. But it's nearly impossible to square this with the latest data from the WTO, which suggests that the trade-weighted average tariff on American imports in the EU is less than 2%. Or take Brazil, which despite being internationally renowned for its relatively high trade barriers, got the minimum 10%. The same as Singapore, which is internationally renowned for its liberal attitude to free trade. And it's also higher than Russia, which seemingly got an exemption for some reason. Even Israel, which made a big show of cutting all tariffs on US-Israeli trade only a couple of days ago, has been slapped with a 17% tariff for some reason. Well, anyway, what does all of this mean for both the American and global economies? Well, even pro-tariff economists would admit that in the short term, there's going to be a fair bit of pain. Let's start with what this means for the American economy. At the time of writing, the S&P 500 was down 3% and falling, which is pretty massive by out-of-hours standards. And while the stock market isn't the real economy, the American economy relies more than ever on demand from the richest 10% of earners, which now account for half of all spending in the country. And those earners' spending patterns are disproportionately affected by movements in the stock market. Now, you might expect less domestic demand to result in lower prices, but these tariffs will almost definitely stoke inflation in the US by making imports more expensive, at least in the short term. This is both bad news for American consumers, but also for the Federal Reserve, which could end up stuck between a stagnant economy, which needs lower interest rates, and persistent inflation, which
I don't agree with everything this guy says.
Things don't look much better for the global economy either. Obviously, these tariffs will be bad in and of themselves, again, at least in the short term. But their severity and almost randomness means that they're overwhelmingly likely to invite retaliatory tariffs from affected countries, who will probably decide that this is just the only way to negotiate with Trump, even if it...
Now, if most of our food comes from, countries inside the United States, then if most of our tariffs come from places inside the United States, like our food does, then the grocery store won't be too affected. But if we're buying everything from other countries, like we shouldn't be doing in the first place for our food, then we will see, and the grocery store prices will go up. But Trump still has a plan to help with prices and stuff like that. But he just hasn't really talked about it too much or announced it. But I got faith that Trump is going to help the economy and help housing crisis and help groceries and stuff like that. But like I said, I'm not sure what the percentage of stuff in the grocery store is domestic or foreign goods. If it's a lot of it's domestic, this will encourage people to shop with local farmers because prices won't increase if you shop with your local farmers. So shop with your local farmers if you're worried about tariff prices for your groceries. A nice thing of Diet Coke for Donald J. Trump. No, I'm just kidding. It's not diet. It's not diet. But if you're new to the channel, like and subscribe. Much appreciated. If you guys ever see me responding to any comments and you're watching this in the future, just know that you have to turn on the live thing so you can see the hateful comments sometimes that people put, if you're wondering about my response specifically to some comments. But yeah, there's a lot of trolls and a lot of people that don't got a life or much things to do. But basically, hopefully I can make a bit of money with my YouTube monetization because I have to reapply for the second time. I applied the first time and I made like a cent in an hour, and then I posted something and 10 minutes later they took it away, unfortunately. Sorry about that noise. I'm cooking something in the background. Hello, Mr. Skeeto LLC. We're discussing tariffs. I'm kind of interested about the prices in the grocery store. Do you guys think a lot of our groceries are from foreign places, like the places Trump has tariffed? Or do you think it's a lot local? Or what do you think about the grocery prices under the tariffs? Because all the stuff that's useless, like from China, all those goods, those are goods that you don't necessarily need. I mean, sure, some people will need a new car, but they don't have to buy a Chinese or a Japanese car. They can buy a Ford, or they can buy a Tesla, or they can buy something American made. That way they can avoid the tariffs. But honestly, if you're going to consider this, we're talking about the car market real quick. All the car market has crashed in 2025. All these European cars are at somewhat record lows in the last 5 years. Even American made cars, the car market has just been crashing like crazy. So honestly, even with the tariffs, kind of will even the car prices out a little bit. Call me crazy, but a lot of brand new cars are selling for under sticker price and MSRP right now. If you're paying more than MSRP, or if you pay the MSRP, then you're kind of like not that smart. You always have to negotiate. So what do you guys think about tariffs? Are they a good thing or are they a bad thing? Let's do a poll. If tariffs are such a bad idea, or if Trump should be hated on tariffs so badly, then why are these other countries like China putting way higher tariffs than even Donald Trump is putting? And look at their economies. Their economies are good. Their economies are stable and stuff like that. But for some reason, when Donald Trump tries to bring jobs back to America, people hate on it. And I'm not always, like I said before, I'm not always trying to say Trump is good or whatever. I'm not here to worship Elon Musk or Trump or RFK. Everyone makes mistakes. They're not the world's best people, but they're the best politicians in the recent years in the United States. And if you think they're bad, then please drop a comment below why you think all these other countries do tariffs against us and against other nations. Because tariffs aren't really a new idea. It's just President Joe Biden didn't really put any tariffs on anybody. And neither did, he really didn't. I don't know what Obama's tariff situation, but for the most part, Democrats just let people fuck up our trade. Like in short term, they let people put tariffs on us, do unfair business deals, unfair trade agreements. Like if Europe puts a 30%, 38% tariff on American automakers, then why do we let them come here with barely any tariffs and all these European cars? You see way more American cars in America. You see way more European cars in America than you see American cars in Europe. I'm currently in Europe right now, so I can tell you that firsthand. Why did this man delete his message? But yeah, I'm not here to agree with everything that Trump says. I'm not here to worship him. Like I said at the beginning of my video, I do this to grow my channel as fast as possible and to, just talk with you guys. It depends what car you have. Depends what American car. Like a lot of Americans like cars like Hellcats. They like Hellcats. They like Mopars. They like Fords. They like Teslas. A lot of people like those cars, but a lot of people want European automakers. Personally, if I had to have any car in the world, it's going to be a European automaker car, like Porsche or Ferrari or something like that. Power? No, I don't think that people really care too much about power, but I do think they care more about money, because you got to think these countries know that people are going to pay the tariffs, so that's just going to be extra money for the government. Especially in countries like China and Taiwan and Vietnam, where most of the government money can go to the officials directly because it's less democratic. American democracy is a joke. Well, if we're going to be honest here, it's the most democratic country in the world. Have you been seeing what's going on with actually maybe not the most democratic, but definitely top 3 or top 5. Have you been seeing what's going on in Romania, France, and a few other European countries where the leaders are being banned, the leading candidates running for president are being banned from running for absolutely no reason? The literally people that are winning the elections or winning the quote unquote democracy are being banned or jailed and being told they can't run for absolutely no reason. Yeah, I agree with you. The dollar is not a good investment at all. But hopefully we keep the power in the dollar. Hopefully, whoever's in president, whoever's in charge of the Federal Reserve, whoever's in charge of that, can bring more power back to the dollar. Gold is a better investment, absolutely. I would argue that gold and crypto. I'm not here to be a crypto advocate. I really don't own like that much crypto or really any for long-term investments just because I think it's kind of like I don't know a lot of pump and dump scams and stuff like that, but crypto is arguably more crypto and gold are arguably the two best more liquid investments that you can do, but stock markets is really good too. Like there's no asset that's going to increase as much as the stock market as quickly and as reliably. But of course, companies can go out of business if you invest in them. Gold isn't going to go out of business. I don't think Bitcoin is going to go to zero tomorrow. And I don't think gold is going to go to zero tomorrow. BRICS can be a challenge. Well, if we're honest here, they really haven't done crap yet with whatever their currency is. They're really in the early stages. But I do see a lot of social media articles hyping up BRICS and stuff like that. But I'm going to be honest, they really haven't done anything. China's Belt and Road Initiative. Honestly, I don't know much about this topic, but I can research it real quickly. I am sitting in front of a computer. But if we're talking about China roads and stuff like that, for example, I'm in Montenegro right now, and China has, invested quite a bit of money of developing roads here. The Belt and Road Initiative, known as China's One Belt Road and sometimes referred to as the New Silk Road, is a global infrastructure development adopted by China in 2013 to invest in more than 150 countries and international organizations. So I'm guessing this is pretty much what they're doing even here in Montenegro, where they've given the country like a couple $1 billion of money that they're going to invest in the road here to make a new highway system. You're probably not too familiar with the country of Montenegro, but I'm a US citizen and I moved here from Spain. I made like a whole video series about it. I have another video dropping soon that's talking about the capital city here and showing the history, and with a couple locals just showing you around like Eastern Europe, Montenegro. It's an ex-Yugoslavia country. They have a huge history with Serbia. China to revive the old Silk Road. Well, good for China. I hope we can build relationships with them stronger than we currently have, because we really need to be. I'm going to sound like a crazy person here. I'm probably going to get attacked somewhere in the comments, but I think that we need to focus on building huge allies with China and also Russia. You can attack me all you want. China and Russia, I believe we should be best friends with these people. Regardless of our political and cultural differences, if we were best friends with China and Russia, that would just make the United States an ultra superpower. And also the amount of money we could make together and the amount of innovation and science and new industries and business would be insane. Everything, we would be literally in the future at that point. It would be like, when people used to talk about flying cars and all this crazy stuff. We would probably be having that realistically, because think about it, those are like the smartest, most innovative, most wealthiest, some of the best nations to work together with. Like the USA should make some kind of pact. We should make a pact with every single big nation with a lot of money, like China and Russia, where we all sit down, we work together as humans, we innovate together, we create new science projects, like imagine a space program, SpaceX with China and Russia, we would probably be on Mars already. We would probably be on Mars already if we had that like 20 years ago, where we just teamed up on one project, we would probably be on Mars already. But basically, I hope that Trump's tariffs can bring a lot of jobs back to the United States. And I think they will, because people won't want to export foreign goods from countries with ridiculous prices and taxes and tariffs, whatever you want to call it. So hopefully that can bring back American industry, because American industry has been dying for a very long time. A very long time. We lost pretty much all of our factories. They're all in Mexico and other countries. But what do you guys think? I own a cafe in Dubai, so I'm glad there's no taxes, so I can earn a solid profit. Interesting comment. Really interesting comment. If you want to connect with me, I would love to talk more about business and ideas and stuff like that. There's a lot of money from the UAE also coming here to Montenegro. It pretty much developed the only super yacht marina in the world that's a premium rated. This is the only platinum premium rated super yacht marina in the world. Here is in Montenegro, Tiviat. You can look it up for yourself. And it was all developed by rich oil shanks, however you say it, from Dubai. And a lot of them invest here because we have a 7% taxes, which is very low. Very, very low. Compared to the Western world and other countries, 7%, you can open up a business and make a lot of money. And you can earn a solid profit. This country lives off tourism. I have a Discord though with business people, doctors, investors, bankers, innovators. Everyone's kind of in there. If you want to join it, it's in the link in my bio. Or if the link doesn't work, you can drop me a comment on one of my videos. Do I have the citizenship in Montenegro? No. I only have American citizenship. All I have here is the temporary residency card, but it's really easy to get a citizenship. You have to be here for like 5 years or invest in a foreign property. I mean, not foreign, but a local property here worth like 200,000 euros or something like that, and you can get a citizenship. Or if you just live here for like 5 years, but if you own a business here, you can set up a business for literally like $500, but you have to have some money to put in a bank accounts and stuff like that. And you can get your residency here, which is very easy. That's why a lot of Ukrainian and Russian people move here. It's very easy to get a residency or a citizenship here, especially if you have like a little bit of money to set up a business or something like that. It's very, very, very easy. It's much easier than any European country. And the bureaucracy is very simple. Since it's not in the EU, you file minimum paperwork very quickly. All you gotta do is set up a business, and yeah, you can get that 7% tax rate for your business, and you can start making lots of profit. This country runs off tourism. It's just like Croatia, which is right next door to us. During the summer, we get all of the people from the UAE that want to come and see the beautiful beaches and the beautiful views. And the super yachting here is really next level. It's like, I would say, one of the main places in Eastern Europe and in Europe for super yachts. Like there's billions, literally billions of dollars worth of super yachts. I mean, you probably can't tell because this is just a small view from my place here, but it's huge. Like, it goes like for 2 kilometers that way and 2 kilometers that way. But But I'm pretty sure to get the residency or a citizenship in Dubai, it's easy as well, but I'm not sure. The GDP of Montenegro is very low, but that's not really what you're going to be looking at when you consider investing in Montenegro. I don't know what the GDP is. Maybe like probably less than 20,000 a year, or maybe about 20,000 a year. But all the money that you're going to be making when you invest in this country isn't going to be from the local money. You're targeting tourists. It's just like if you invest in Spain, which Spain is horrible for investing because they have a bunch of ridiculous bureaucracy, but they have a higher GDP, but they make all their money from tourism. Here, they make all their money from tourism too. But especially on the coastal cities like Tavat and stuff like that. So you're going to be targeting all the tourists that come here. Lots of Americans, people from the United Kingdom, other European countries, they all come here because it's very affordable to take a vacation. Your money will take you very far, and a lot of people like that. Even people that have millions or billions of dollars, they really enjoy when their money takes them farther, you know? Like you can rent a boat here, you can go to a bunch of nice restaurants. It'll be much cheaper than virtually any Western European country, and there's no crime, there's no illegal immigration, there's no violence in the street. You can walk down. No, I'm not exhausted at all. You can walk down the street. You can, at the middle of night, you can walk down the street without worrying about having your stuff taken or stolen. It's very, very safe. Like you can walk at 2 or 3 in the morning, and it's just like Dubai. You won't get you don't have to worry, you know? I'm not exhausted at all, though. I'm actually energetic. I was just talking a lot, so I kind of made that face like I need to stop talking for a second so fast. But yeah, it's just like the UAE. It's just like Dubai. The level of safety here is insane. Like, for instance, the grocery stores have all the drinks and the fruit sometimes on the outside. There's no one watching it. They don't worry about thieves. This is really a country of law and order. I think that's why a lot of people from Dubai like it too. But let's get back into watching another video about tariffs. Let's see what's going on with tariffs. One place you didn't see on Trump's tariffs list was really anywhere in the Middle East, like the UAE. Okay, here's an interesting one. What do tariffs mean for grocery prices?
The all-important groceries will be affected as well. Matt Gutman's got a grocery store in Los Angeles. And Matt, tell us what you're seeing there.
This man, I can already tell where he's pointing at. He's going to be talking about liquor prices. Oh, liquor from France, blah, 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 champagne, blah, blah, blah. Just get American-made drinks like whiskey, and Jack Daniels and stuff like that. Who cares about champagne from France? Like, if you're buying that, you should already have the extra money to spend on it.
Hey, good morning, Michael. I mean, when it comes to groceries, economists project that if consumers are made to absorb the entirety of the 20% import tariffs on Europe, things like this, olive oil from Italy, $20 now, it'll be up to $24. And something else that folks are really not going to like, alcohol could also rise by that 20% as well. But not just imported alcohol from Europe, but also domestically produced alcohol because of the tariffs on aluminum and on glass. Something else, seafood. The USDA says about 80% of seafood consumption in the U.S. comes from high tariff countries. India, Indonesia, China, Canada, Vietnam. So that could rise. But there are a couple of bright spots.
Eat
Folks
local
here at the
fish.
market say that meat,
Support
poultry,
local
eggs,
farmers.
dairy, they're likely not going to change much. Also, take a look at this produce display here. And despite the tariffs on Mexico and Canada, the folks here at markets like this don't expect produce to rise much more than a couple of percent. Another bright spot, inventory. Managers of stores like this say that their vendors say they have plenty of inventory that will likely last for months, and consumers won't start to feel the pinch for several months down the road. But economists say the folks that will start to feel the pinch the soonest are low-income families, Robin.
They will be the ones, but thank you for pointing out the bright spots, because we're really searching for those. Thanks, Matt.
Well, to be honest, I don't think low-income families are really buying champagne and Italian olive oil. People that buy Italian olive oil and champagne, these are more wealthy people normally. Olive oil has never been cheap, even when you buy it in Europe. I used to live in Spain where they produce it. Even in Spain, it was pretty like relatively more expensive than like other like the other oils you can cook your food in. Let's see. And I know it'll affect Europe, especially some places will see an increase if they buy their goods. And I'm living in Europe, so all the American stuff will pretty much go up in price, I'm sure of it. But I don't really buy anything that's American made in Europe. That's the thing. I mean, does Coca-Cola come from America here? I don't think so. It's made with different ingredients, I'm pretty sure, in Europe than it is America. But yeah, I guess things like olive oil and fancy champagnes and fancy alcohol will all go up in price. But even the people that hate on tariffs and hate on America for doing the tariffs just pretty much said meats and vegetables and eggs are not going to go up in price from the tariffs because those are all local things. But I've never heard anything like why they can explain tariffs are bad. The only thing you can say is your fancy olive oils and your French champagne and your Italian olive oil is going to go up in price.
I always say tariffs is the most beautiful word to me in the dictionary.
And also, guys, we got to think about the huge benefits on tariffs for America. Let's put all the trade war and bringing back industry into America aside. Tariffs will help America by the number one reason. People that are making under $150,000 a year, according to Trump, he's trying to take these tariffs and make sure people making under $150,000 in the U.S. will not have to pay taxes anymore, which is truly brilliant, because why would a person making $20,000 or $30,000 a year have to file their taxes? That makes no sense. Right? That makes no sense to me. Like, why would they have to file their taxes? Why do they have to pay taxes or file taxes when they can barely afford to get by? You're living a horrible life in the U.S. if you only make $20,000 or $30,000 a year. I hate to say it, but that's pretty much poverty level. You're in the poverty line at that point. You can't afford housing, so you probably have to live in government housing. You really can't afford food, so you probably have to get government food stamps. Basically, you're just surviving off the government at that point.
This is a direct attack.
Donald Trump, who changes his mind between, breakfast 11's his lunch and supper time.
What the heck is going on? Why is Trump hitting his closest allies with tariffs? Why does he no longer care about crashing the stock market? Does this guy actually have a plan? Yes. Believe it or not, I'm here to tell you that yes, as Trump's new Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, recently put it,
President Trump's tariff policies have begun the process of reorienting our international economic relations.
That's right, he says tariffs have begun the process. In other words, his tariff chaos is just the start of a much bigger plan. A plan that aims to upend the entire world trading system that the US itself created. This has really only happened twice before, once in 1944, marking the start of the Bretton Woods system, and then in the early 80s with Reagan and Thatcher, marking the beginnings of the neoliberal world order. So here we are today, 2025. Is this the start of a completely new global order? A new US-centered order that will emerge
Hit the like and
right
subscribe
after
if
the
you're new
current
here.
chaos, in which countries are divided in 3 groups, or as Scott Bessent calls it,
I think we should make it very clear that there is a green, a yellow, and a red bucket. And we let everyone know where they are.
in these buckets, it will become very clear that some countries get low tariffs, military protection, and maybe even some preferred US dollar access, while others are left to fend for themselves. At least, that's the picture I got from going through all of the speeches and papers by Trump's closest economic advisors that I could find. So, let's get into it. What is this MAGA master plan for a new global order? And is this plan actually feasible, or is it just a pipe dream of a madman and his stooges?
Definitely
To
a
answer
madman.
these questions, let's start with
But
getting into
he's
the
a smart
MAGA
madman.
mindset and ask ourselves, what does the Trump team actually want? To answer that question, first a bit about Trump's new economic team. First, we have Scott Bessent, the new Treasury Secretary, an ultra-wealthy hedge fund manager that famously worked with George Soros himself to break the Bank of England in the early 90s. And he used to teach economic history classes at Yale. Then there's Stephen Moran, Trump's new top economic advisor, a Harvard PhD and hedge fund strategist who recently got all of Wall Street talking with his new paper, A User's Guide to Restructuring the Global Trading System. Both men have written and talked extensively about one single mortal threat to the United States: deindustrialization. So of course, they were drawn to Donald Trump's campaign with its goal of
make the United States into a manufacturing powerhouse like it used to be many years ago.
Many years ago, indeed. If we look at this chart, we can see that in the 1950s, the US used to be a manufacturing powerhouse, and manufacturing value added accounted for 28% of output. Today, that number is only 10%. Trump's first trade war did not significantly change that trajectory, though. But
He didn't go hard enough.
The problem. America's economy is bigger than ever, right? Why does the Trump team care so much about industry? 2 reasons. First, deindustrialization has devastated America's industrial heartland, which overwhelmingly voted Trump in 2024. Second, US industrial power is now far behind that of other comparable powers, especially China, putting it at a massive disadvantage in case of a war, given that historically civilian factories and know-how have been essential for rapid militarization. So, the Trump team thinks a lot about China. What happens if they invade Taiwan? Yes, the US has a stronger fleet for now, but as Vice President J.D. Vance has noted, US deindustrialization has gotten so bad that
one of Beijing's state-owned firms built more commercial ships just last year than all of America has produced since the end of World War II.
So I think in that light, that, yeah, it does make sense that the Trump administration wants to re-industrialize the US. But does he really have to slap tariffs on everyone at the same time? And say stuff like this about his closest allies?
Taking our jobs, taking our wealth, taking a lot of things that they've been taking over the years. They've taken so much out of our country, friend and foe. And frankly, friend has been oftentimes much worse than foe.
After all, the US has been the most powerful country on earth for decades. It literally designed the current trading system. So why is it so unhappy about it? To answer that question, we need to go through the entire period of this graph. A brief history of the US-led global order. After all, the deindustrialization of the US is a long historical trend, and it happened under 2 specific global orders, both made by the US itself. The first is the Bretton Woods system from 1944 to 1973. The second is the neoliberal world order that arguably lasted from Reagan's presidency in the early 80s to Trump's first term in 2016. The periods in between are, in my view, adjustment periods. So, okay, let's start with the Bretton Woods system and why it is crucial to understand Trump's plan today. The Bretton Woods system was established in the 1940s On the economic side, the rules were laid out in 1944 when the United Nations Monetary and Financial Conference was held in Bretton Woods in the United States. Meanwhile, on the security side, several conferences were signed that ultimately led to the creation of NATO and the US-Japan Security Treaty. Together, I'm going to refer to this all as the Bretton Woods Economic and Security Order. Joining this order for any country other than the United States meant the following three things. 1. You would fix the value of your currency to the US dollar, which itself was tied to gold. 2. You would rely on the US for military protection, potentially even hosting US military bases. And 3. The US would help your industries become competitive against their own by providing Marshall Plan 8 and by opening up its own market, while allowing its recovering allies to shield their markets to a certain extent from US companies. Notably, getting back to Besant's green, yellow and red buckets, only allies would receive these benefits. Neutral countries did not get them, but they could sign individual deals, while communist countries were essentially shut out of the Bretton Woods economic order. The history of the Bretton Woods system is really crucial because already here it seems like being a green country looks like a super good deal for these countries and not for the US. But I think that is misguided for at least three reasons. First, the US was really wary of creating another world war, and while it gave Europe and Japan an advantage in market access, in return it got really good allies that it really needed in its global fight against communism. Second, US industries also needed export markets themselves. By making its allies rich, the US allowed itself to get richer as well. Finally, this system really cemented the role of the US dollar as the global reserve currency. Issuing the world's reserve currency came with what French Finance Minister Valéry Giscard d'Estaing called an exorbitant privilege. This privilege meant that because the demand for US dollars as a reserve currency was so great, it allowed the US to spend much more internationally than it earned without facing a currency crisis. However, arguably, giving Japan and Europe key market access did already contribute a little bit to deindustrialization. However, as Stephen Moran writes in his paper, this system inevitably led to a dilemma for the US, the so-called Triffin dilemma. You see, as the global economy grew, the need for dollars increased, but the quantity of gold was relatively stable. So to keep the global economy growing, the US either needed to choose to keep creating more dollars, making the gold standard less and less credible, or to keep the gold standard and kill global economic growth by stopping the creation of new dollars that the world needed. This ultimately led to the following iconic announcement by President Nixon in 1971.
I directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar.
Horrible idea.
Or other reserve assets.
I think Nixon was a horrible president, just for this reason.
After which the neoliberal world order was ushered in by Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher. This neoliberal world order was characterized by, number 1, lower tariffs, number 2, lower barriers on investment around the world, number 3, flexible exchange rates, and number 4, the US guaranteeing security for everyone that at least played somewhat nice with the United States. In line with its free market principles, the neoliberal order was far less structured than the Bretton Woods order. There was no formal agreement now in which countries promised to use US dollars. They just did so because it was the most convenient and most reliable currency out there. However, in this system, any non-US nation had a very strong incentive to hoard US dollars by making it easy to export to the US and making it harder to import from the US. Notably, despite praising the virtues of free trade, the World Trade Organization did actually allow developing nations to have higher tariffs against the US than the other way around, precisely because the US hoped that by making the world richer, it would become friendlier, just as has happened before with Germany and Japan. Compared to Bretton Woods, the number of green countries, so to say, got much bigger in the neoliberal order. As long as you were willing to play by the rules of the World Trade Organization, you got good access to the massive US consumer market, the US dollar banking system, and as a bonus, US Navy protection of global shipping. That sure sounds like a pretty good deal. But of course, the US again got something very, very big in return for it. With the fixed exchange rates of Bretton Woods gone, Stephen Miran writes that reserve demand for American assets pushed up the dollar, leaving it to levels far in excess of what would balance international trade over the long run. So, thanks to flexible exchange rates, the US's exorbitant privilege arguably became even stronger. A strong dollar meant that the US could keep its massive military all over the world, despite becoming a far smaller economy relative to the rest of the world and relative to its dominance in the 50s. On top of that, the strong dollar made Americans in general much richer than they would otherwise have been. However, on the flip side, it did make manufacturing in the US much more expensive, causing stable manufacturing jobs to leave the country, especially when China joined the World Trade Organization in 2001 in something that became known as the China Shock. Meanwhile, a strong dollar mostly helped those Americans that already had a lot of dollars, thereby making inequality worse. Then, in 2016, increased inequality and a devastated industrial heartland helped to elect Donald Trump, who started his first trade war in 2016. In hindsight, I believe this already marked the end of the neoliberal world order because it ended the very neoliberal idea that free trade is always good. This trade war was mostly about raising tariffs against China. However, China always retaliated, meaning that at the end of it, China still had a higher average tariff rate on the US than the other way around. Notably, this did not stop deindustrialization of the US. It also did not stop the rise of China's mighty manufacturing industries.
We have to go harder on China, that's why. You have to go hard, hammer them down until we win. This is a war.
Just as the Chinese had done before it. This led to a lot of new factories being built in the US. However, according to Bessent and Miran, this was not sustainable, leading to a very high US government deficit. So, here we are today, transitioning further and further away from the neoliberal order, an order that the US itself created under Reagan, an order which kept the US the richest and most powerful nation on earth by inflating the value of the dollar. But according to Trump's team, it led to such rapid deindustrialization that it has now become a national security threat. Which brings us to the MAGA master plan for a new global order. A plan that is supposed to help reindustrialize the US while at the same time to keep the US dollar as the global reserve currency, because as Trump himself has said,
and if you want to go to third world status, lose your reserve currency. We have to have that. We cannot lose it.
So how do you keep your reserve currency status and reindustrialize at the same time? Most economists think that this is simply not possible. But Stephen Miran, he published a paper that says, yeah, this is actually possible. You can have your cake and eat it too. But to be clear, the paper that Miran has written is not a plan in itself. It is a cookbook with options. At the time of recording, Bessent also has not presented a full plan that includes his green, yellow, and red country structure. So, for the 3-step MAGA master plan that I am about to present you, I had to dive deep into what both Miran and Bessent have revealed so far. And no, sadly, I was not added to a US government signal group by accident. So for each step, I'll tell you exactly where I got my information from. Okay, here we go. Step 1. Tariff chaos. This is the step that we are in now. In this step, the administration shows that it means business. It no longer cares about the stock market crashing. It no longer cares about the economy temporarily doing poorly. It just applied a lot of high tariffs to foes and friends alike to create negotiating leverage. I'm basing this on the fact that Bessent has said that while he didn't initially view tariffs as a negotiating tool, Mr. Trump...
He's added a third leg to the stool, and he uses it for negotiating.
My second piece of evidence to suggest that the current chaos is temporary is that before being part of the administration, Miran said that the dollar policies that he proposed would likely be
pursued later in an administration after tariffs had produced the sufficient negotiating leverage.
So both Miran and Bessent are essentially telling us that the current tariff chaos is just about creating leverage that can be used when implementing the rest of the plan. Which brings us to step number 2, reciprocal tariffs. Remember this graph, where China reacted to Trump's tariffs by ever increasing its own tariffs? If you really have reciprocal tariffs, that dynamic is theoretically gone. It will just be, look, it can keep going up, but will always match you, so there's always a level playing field. This is the long-term goal of the tariffs, or in Besant's words,
This is what tariffs are designed to address. Leveling the playing field such that the international trading system begins to reward ingenuity, security, rule of law, and stability, not wage suppression, currency manipulation, intellectual property theft, non-tariff barriers, and draconian regulation.
But here economists have often criticized the administration for wishful thinking because historically trade wars, such as those in the 1930s, just made everyone worse off and led to war. But here, Miran has said that
they've only got the United States to sell to. There's no alternative. So they're the ones who will bear the burden of these tariffs.
This is a really tricky point to understand, but what he essentially means is that due to everyone wanting to export to the US to obtain dollars, the US has a truly unique negotiating position in a trade war. Trump's first trade war failed because China just increased exporting to countries like Mexico and Vietnam, which then exported to the US. So by extending tariffs to all countries, Miran writes that President Trump views tariffs as generating negotiating leverage for making deals. It is easier to imagine that after a series of punitive tariffs, trading partners like Europe and China become more receptive to some manner of currency accord in exchange for a reduction of tariffs. A currency accord, that's right. This brings us to the final step in the MAGA master plan. Step 3, a Mar-a-Lago Accord. Yes, a Mar-a-Lago Accord that will go into the history books to rival the 1944 Bretton Woods Agreement or 1985 Plaza Accord, in which Japan and the US and European countries came together to collectively raise the values of the yen and European currencies versus the dollar. But how does that relate to Besant's green, yellow, and red buckets? After joining the Trump administration, Miran has gotten much more quiet about this Mar-a-Lago Accord, which makes sense because he doesn't want to give away too much. But still, he did tell us that
if the dollar were able to weaken to equilibrate trade, then we wouldn't have a lot of the, to balance trade deficits, then we wouldn't have a lot of the problems that tariffs and other policies are designed to address, because U.S. exports would be more competitive on the global stage and we wouldn't be as cheated by other countries.
So I suspect that to avoid ruining the negotiations, they cannot talk about this as freely anymore as before, but that the ultimate goal is still to weaken the dollar while keeping it as a reserve currency. In his paper, Miran talked about some wacky options that the US could use to do this on its own, such as charging reserve currency users a user fee, but I think that they will not go for these options because it will be far too risky. Instead, I think the Mar-a-Lago Accord that the Trump team ultimately will push will look a lot like the Bretton Woods system, just minus the link to gold. I could even imagine that in this new world order, green countries peg their currencies to the dollar with a deal that whenever the dollar gets too strong, they appreciate their currencies against it. In return, they get access to the largest consumer market in the world, as well as security benefits and good access to the US dollar system. But unlike in Bretton Woods, I expect the US wants countries to pay tribute for that security, making them essentially vassal states. Yes, this is speculative from my side, but listen to this recent speech by Besant and please tell me if you hear the elements that I just talked about.
The international trading system consists of a web of relationships, military, economic, political. One cannot take a single aspect in isolation. This is how President Trump sees the world, not as a zero-sum game, but as interlinkages that can be reordered to advance the interest of the American people.
And this is why I think Trump's current economic chaos makes sense. The Trump team believes that the current international order is no longer in the best interest of the American people. They have already told us that the current tariff chaos is just a means to create negotiating leverage. They've already told us that they aim to use reciprocal tariffs to even the playing field for red and yellow countries, and they have hinted that if a currency deal can be made, tariffs can be much lower. And yeah, I do believe that if enough countries join the new MAGA world order as green countries that peg their currency to the US dollar, this does indeed mean that Trump can have his weaker dollar while maintaining its status as a reserve currency. This could help reindustrialize the US, at least to a certain extent in theory. But of course, all of this depends on the US making it attractive enough for countries to become a green country in the new MAGA international order. This, I believe, is the real problem with the plans of people like Besson and Miran. They're clearly smart people, they have studied history extensively, but to voluntarily commit to raising your currency's value compared to the dollar, to continue to rely on US military protection, but now to pay for it, that essentially makes you a vassal state.
We gotta do what we gotta do. We're gonna make the US dollar strong again, and we're not putting up with anyone putting high tariffs against the US. That's unacceptable. We got 7 votes now. A lot of people are saying good for long-term jobs. Let's see if we can find a most detailed video. That's exactly what I'm saying. We should go back to high tariffs and no income tax. Who cares if the olive oil from Italy increases 20%? That's like $2 on a $20 bottle. At least we won't have income tax, which will save a lot of people much more than $2. I exactly agree with that, Corey. I exactly agree with that. That's the main point I'm trying to make. Donald Trump said it himself. This is my favorite thing that he ever said. He wants to get rid of income tax completely, but first he wants to make it for people making under $150,000 a year, no income tax. Maybe from there he can put no income tax for the entire country, just like the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, like Dubai, and stuff like that. Yeah, we can grow peanuts and use peanut oil. I agree with that. We need to bring back American farming. We need to bring back American jobs and American industry. We are going to see a job increase with all these new investments. Trillions of dollars of foreign investment has come into the USA since Trump has been president. I'm not saying he's perfect. He definitely does a lot of stuff I disagree with, but bringing all these industry backs, people are finally going to be able to work in factories and industries like they used to in the good old days of the United States, like in the 1950s and 1960s. And these tariffs aren't going to be forever, but if they need to be forever so we don't have to pay income taxes, then hell yeah, they should be forever then. Whatever we got to do. I just want to abolish the IRS completely. Let's watch another video about impact on tariffs on the grocery prices. Hit the like and subscribe if you're new to my channel. I love talking with you guys. You guys have a lot of good ideas and questions and stuff like that. Went into effect today. It includes a 25% tax. But I know. Let's get rolling again. Give me a second and we'll get the video rolling so I can show you guys You know, I don't think there's gonna be a impact on eggs and stuff like that and meats, but just like on the fruits we buy from Mexico. Who cares? Buy less avocados or grow them yourself or get them from a local farmer. I kind of want to play this guy's video, but he's kind of going outside. Okay, that's a funny joke. Are you Amish? No. My haircut looks Amish, but I have a laptop right in front of me and a TV as well. I guess I'm Amish. Maybe if I go like this, it's a little bit less Amish. It's my hair, huh? Are you Amish? If you're Amish, maybe you shouldn't be on YouTube. Doesn't that go against your community's rules? Or are you sneaking it? Let's check out our boy Tucker Carlson. Let's check out our boy Tucker Carlson. Maybe he'll say something interesting. My family has actually met Tucker Carlson. He kind of lives close to where in Florida where I'm from. So yeah. That's an interesting one. An interesting one. I don't make butter, but if I did, yeah, I would put like, I would make it like with mushrooms, truffles. It would be truffle butter. So hopefully you like truffle and mushrooms, because that's what kind of butter I'm gonna serve you. It's gonna be on my website. All you gotta do is subscribe. I'm posting the website for the truffle butter, Amish made soon. Very soon. It's gonna be an affordable price. Actually, the 5 first orders will be completely free for the Amish butter. Because as part of the Amish community, we're really religious, so we like to give back.
Citizens, but to gain wealth. So what they're trying
That'll
to
also
do,
be an option of a butter. That'll be another option for the butter, but that one will cost money. Because we grow that in the Amish community as well. We don't really believe in like government oversight and overlay, so we just grow whatever we want.
is get wealth in order to get assets in the United States, or to get technology, in order to get all these kind of things that make you wealthy. So I think of the kind of failure points as being, one, because this system doesn't work, we have this giant transfer of wealth from the United States overseas, and that is in the form of trade deficits. The way
What
the
did he
system is
say
supposed
now?
to work, no one should have large trade deficits for long periods of time. Things can happen. You can do it. You could have trade deficits.
Because pockets are against religion, and also that just makes an unnecessary step.
Billions of dollars of trade
An unnecessary
deficits every year
step.
is not how it's supposed to work. We now are to the point.
I'm
where
also
trade
selling
deficits-
Amish jeans on my website. If you want to add pockets, I can do it for you.
$7 or $800 billion. If you did it the way you or I would do, in a sensible way, you'd probably be at $1 trillion or $1.25 trillion. So that's a transfer of wealth from Americans
To foreign overseas people. And it's unfortunate. Easy access, yeah, sure. You can say that. We don't have cell phones or anything like that. I'm breaking the Amish community's rules. But yeah, we're not supposed to have cell phones or anything like that. So we don't really need pockets in the Amish community. I'm out here in the Amish, the beautiful Amish. If you ever wondered what the Amish looks like, this is exactly what it looks like. Amish. Straight Amish. Big doinks in the Amish. Big doinks in the Amish. And also butter. Stuff like that. But I just ate something, so I'm gonna wash my hands in a second, and you guys can, I'll play a clip for you guys of something. What do you guys want to see? Huh? Let me think about it. Let me think about it. Let's look up any scary things we can find about Trump. The Amish love Trump.
What will we do?
Donald Trump has shown his dominance yet again.
Nah, we ain't playing that.
Global nations
The
have
Amish don't support that kind of music.
tariffs and have snapped into action, immediately declaring the removal of tariffs on US imports to maintain a friendly relationship with the superpower.
The news of the day, Mr. Secretary, is about tariffs, and this is Liberation Day for America. The tariffs seem to already be having an effect where other countries, India and Canada, namely, but I expect Mexico and China in the coming hours, to say we give up, and the tariffs are having great effect. Now, Canada has said, no more tariffs on America if you guys take tariffs off us.
Israel was the first country to cave, with Benjamin Netanyahu releasing a statement that said, "Today we cancelled all of the customs duties levied on products from the US, Israel's largest trading partner. Cancelling the customs duties on American goods is an additional step in the policy that my governments have led for a decade in opening up the market to competition, introducing variety to the economy and lowering the cost of living." This led some commentators to question why Israel even had tariffs on US imports in the first place, considering how much aid they had provided. This commentator said, "Why was Israel charging the United States any customs duties at all? This is mind-boggling to me. We help your country with so much, but you are charging import duties, or another term for tariffs." Canada, despite the Prime Minister's tough talk, also seems to be willing to take off their tariffs to the US.
Hit the like and subscribe button, guys.
Doug Ford.
Well, we've had this conversation for over the last month. We don't want tariffs. We have another $65 billion worth of tariffs to launch today. That's the last thing we want to do, because it's just, again, it's going to hurt both countries. It's going to hurt American workers. That's the last thing I want.
Andrew meant take the other ones off, not the ones you're launching today. The ones that you already got.
You're saying you take all your tariffs off. I'm saying
we will take them all. That's right.
Then why is that not? I guess my question is, why has all of that not already happened? And does President Trump know that you'd be prepared to do that?
He knows, and Secretary Lutnick knows that we're willing to take these tariffs off, like in the next minute. If he said he's taking their tariffs off, let's look at the auto sector.
Although this is at odds with his Prime Minister, Mark Carney, who is tonight in desperation mode, looking distressed and slamming Trump at every opportunity he can get.
So, President Trump has just announced a series of measures that are going to fundamentally change the international trading system. Now, in doing so, he has preserved a number of important elements of our relationship, the commercial relationship between Canada and the United States. But the fentanyl tariffs still remain in place, as do the tariffs for steel and aluminum. As of this evening, the tariffs on automobiles will enter into force, and the U.S. has signaled that there will be additional tariffs in so-called strategic sectors, pharmaceuticals, lumber, and semiconductors. So we're in a situation where there's going to be an impact on the U.S. economy, which will build with time. In our judgment, it will be negative on the U.S. economy. That will have an impact on us. But the series of measures will directly affect millions of Canadians. We are going to fight these tariffs with countermeasures. We are going to protect our workers, and we are going to build
the strongest economy.
India also moved quickly, dropping its tariffs on US imports in response to the news.
India just a little while ago is going to be dropping its tariffs very substantially. And I said, why didn't somebody do this a long time ago? A lot of countries are going to be dropping their tariffs.
There are also reports that Vietnam are cutting tariffs on American imports. And Trump's global best bud, Javier Milei, president of Argentina, has hopped on the front foot, scheduling a meeting with Marco Rubio in Washington, D.C. to forge ahead with a trade deal after Trump announced the lowest possible 10% tariff on Argentina. And after talking tough for weeks on tariffs, it seems the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer may be crowbarred into caving to the demands of Donald Trump, taking a very diplomatic approach to the new tariffs and saying a trade war is in no one's best interests. Watch this space.
Mr. Speaker, we've been preparing for all eventualities ahead of the confirmation of US tariffs later today. Let me be clear with the House. A trade war is in nobody's interest. And the country deserves, and we will take, a calm, pragmatic approach. That's why we're working with all industries and sectors likely to be impacted. Our decisions will always be guided by our national interest. And that's why we have prepared for all eventualities.
They're scared of America. They can't handle the heat.
The first wave of world leaders who have caved to Trump are prioritizing maintaining their close ties to the US, just as Trump foresaw before announcing the tariffs.
Likewise, to all of the foreign presidents, prime ministers, kings, queens, ambassadors, and everyone else who will soon be calling to ask for exemptions from these tariffs, I say, terminate your own tariffs, drop your barriers, don't manipulate your currencies. They manipulate their currencies like nobody can even believe, which is a bad, bad thing and very devastating to us. And start buying tens of billions of dollars of American goods. Tariffs give our country protection against those that would do us economic harm. And many people were looking to do us economic harm. Maybe not so obviously, but they were doing tremendous economic harm.
But not everyone is willing to play ball. French President Emmanuel Macron has come out fighting, pledging to stop all future investment into the US from France and the European Union in light of the tariffs.
C'était important que nous puissions nous retrouver le plus rapidement possible après les annonces.
He's a weak man. He will lose.
Président Trump, qui sont un choc pour le commerce international, pas simplement pour l'Union européenne, la France, mais au fond pour le bon fonctionnement du commerce. Ce qui est important, et c'est tout le travail qu'il faut faire par filière.
Weak men like him never last.
Les investissements annoncés ces dernières semaines, ils soient un temps suspendus tant qu'on n'a pas clarifié les choses avec les États-Unis d'Amérique. Parce que quel serait le message d'avoir des grands acteurs européens qui se mettent à investir des milliards d'euros dans l'économie américaine au moment où ils sont en train de nous taper? Donc il faut qu'on ait de la solidarité collective.
Weak men like Macron can't handle Trump. That man is married to a transsexual that he met when he was 15. I think we're safe. We're scared, Macron. Psych. Plus, that man is just talking shit. He doesn't have power over the European Union to stop their investment. He's just bullshitting. The European Union doesn't give a fuck what he has to say. Albanese insults on Donald Trump, coming home to roast.
A massive blow for the Albanese government today after Donald Trump slapped a base tariff rate of 10%.
Who the fuck is the Albanese? Sorry.
Liberation Day.
Oh, Australia.
We're also standing up for our great farmers and ranchers who are brutalized by nations all over the world.
Albanese. I'm like, who the fuck is that? It's the Australian government.
This is a 250 to 300% tariff on many of our dairy products. Australia bans, and they're wonderful people and wonderful everything, but they ban American beef, yet we imported $3 billion of Australian beef from than just last year alone.
The Prime Minister had this to say in response.
The administration's tariffs have no
Shit.
and they go against the basis of our two nations partnership. This is not the act of a friend.
And this is
Neither was banning American meat.
The focus that we should have as a government and as an alternative government is to do a deal on that basis as quickly as possible so that we can reduce the impact on Australians, on our industry and on our export capability.
Joining me now for more on this is Sky News contributor Gary Hardgrave. Gary, none of this should be a surprise. This is the America First policy Trump campaigned on, and the Albanese government has botched the response. Donald Trump is not even taking Anthony Albanese's phone calls.
Exactly. They can't ban our meat.
Politicians, including the Prime Minister and his ministers, have said about him over the years.
Not the Amish meat.
Our case.
Look, it hasn't. There's no doubt about that. There is not a strong relationship between this Prime Minister and that President. And it's been set up by this Prime Minister. The blurting of all sorts of insults to him years ago is just really coming home to roost. But we also started a lot of this. You know, we started to bring in things like a GST on imported items that you brought through on mail order out of places like the United States. So, you know, from their point of view, they're saying, well, you know, you brought in a 10% tariff on us, which is what basically they're seeing it as. So here's one on you. Look, you know, our farmers are in real peril, and we should, I think, move this conversation on to what is really coming their way. The real cost to our farmers is the high cost of electricity, the high cost of government regulation and red tape. This is a government, the Albanese government, that likes to just find new taxes to hurt people in new ways. They really don't have any commitment to the agricultural sector, for instance. They're talking about the same thing Kamala Harris talked about last year, and that is to have an unrealised capital gains tax. What's the first thing that they're targeting? Farmers. So if you own a block of dirt and you graze on it, the tax office each year is going to actually look and say what the value of that dirt is. And by the way, we're going to take a percentage off you. These are the sorts of things we've got to get rid of, that and cheaper electricity prices. And until we do, and until we put Australia first, then frankly, we really have nothing to complain about. I mean, the Americans are looking after themselves. I don't like what Trump's done, but he's looking after himself. It's playing well in America until, I guess, the price of Big Macs go up. It probably will. But, Rita, we are...
Big Macs don't come from China, retard.
...to make a living for us. And until we start to look at how government costs and electricity prices are damaging all things in the supply chain, the production chain in this country, I don't think we're serious. The Prime Minister doesn't want you to look at that. He says, pick on Trump and vote against Dutton to send a message to Trump. This is crazy politics, crazy.
It is crazy policy. It's infantile. It's aimed at the low information voter. But we need an Australia First policy right here. And starting with our energy policy, that would be fantastic to see. I'll be speaking to Army Horowitz shortly about the tariffs a little bit more and what's to come next. Now to what is being described in the Australian newspaper as the ultimate David versus Goliath case. Rainforest Reserves Australia, a small charity based in North Queensland, is taking the federal government and an Andrew Forrest-backed renewable energy company to court over a planned 69-turbine wind farm located 5 kilometres from the Wet Tropics World Heritage Area. Gary, this project is set to involve the clearing of around 600 hectares of land, home to koalas and other vulnerable species. How did the Environment Minister, Tanya Plibersek, ever approve this project?
Well, amongst the many projects she approved within days of becoming the minister, this project stands out. There's another one near Lotus Creek, northwest of Rockhampton. I spoke to a conservationist, a photographer, yesterday on the radio on 4BC here in Brisbane, and he made that point that 180 koalas have already been displaced. And there is a project to put up $25 million wind turbines. This project is costing everybody a lot of money through higher electricity prices, but it's killing and wiping off the tops of mountains because there's not a great lot of breeze on the plains in Queensland compared to some other parts of the world, and yet they're applying a European standard to Australia. So they lock the top off the mountains, they kill off the koala habitat, and they pollute the creeks with all the debris that gets thrown down in the creeks, that washes out on the Great Barrier Reef. And Rita,
Reconnecting. What the hell just happened? Hopefully it's okay now. Can you guys hear me? Please subscribe if you guys can hear me. We're almost to 3,000 subscribers. I really like to talk to you, and I love when you guys join my channel. Yeah, the tariff hit my Wi-Fi for sure. I think you can hear me now though, right? Drop another comment if you can hear me. Amish King. Okay, I'll take that. I'll take it. I'll take any compliments I can get. Let's see what else. I like. Let's see if we can see anything else. Trump's tariffs make countries stop. Let's Google that. Because they will stop the Trump. They will stop the Trump. Already like 3 countries said, no, please, Mr. Trump, please, we'll take our tariff off you first. Just stop, just stop. We're gonna have this nerdy looking guy say, hey guys, Trump tariffs, they make no sense, guys. They make no sense. I voted for Kamala Harris. And I believe Tampon Tim needs to bring tampons back to little boys' restrooms. We're gonna listen to that guy about tariffs? No, thank you. I don't feel like listening to him about how tariffs make no sense. If they make no sense, then why do every other country do it to us first? France hardly has any money to invest in the US anyway. So who cares if they suspend US investment? What are they investing in? Fucking grapes or something? Nobody cares. Let's look up Fox News. See if there's anything new that we're not covering yet. Gigantic conspiracy.
All right, the left, they just cannot
Yeah, that's
handle
all
the
they
fact that
do.
President Trump is keeping
That's
all
all
his
they import,
promises on
French,
immigration. In
those
fact, in the
things.
liberal sanctuary city of Boston, they're now trying to charge an
French tickler.
ICE agent with crimes just because he did his job and arrested an illegal immigrant. The DA in Suffolk County says that the
He
ICE
did his
agent
job.
arrested the illegal in the middle of a trial, which supposedly deprived the illegal of his rights. And a judge
Oh, you
even
don't
held
have
the
any
agent in
rights. You're not a
contempt over the arrest.
citizen.
But the U.S. Attorney in Massachusetts said that the judge's contempt order cannot be enforced.
Anyone that's voting that says tariffs are bad or this or that, please explain your reasoning, because I keep seeing people voting say, no, tariffs are bad, tariffs are bad. If they're so bad, then why did China and all these other countries put them against us first? And why do all these countries have tariffs against other countries? We're not the innovator of goddamn tariffs. We didn't just come out of nowhere with the highest tariffs in the game. In fact, a lot of our tariffs on these countries are lower than the tariffs they put on us first. So why are people crying so damn hard? It makes no sense. Like, make it make sense. If no one wants to comment about it, they all want to vote and say, no, bad idea, no reason for tariffs, bad idea. All we got to do is ask these countries to take their tariffs off, and they will. If it was that easy, I don't think they would have done it in the first place. A lot of them are still fighting against us now that we put the tariffs on us. They're like, no, we're going to pull our investment out. We're going to pull our investment out. We don't give a shit about you investing in French grapes in the United States with your $2. We didn't want your damn investment anyway. Realistically, we didn't need it.
The Constitution clearly protects federal officers from prosecution just for carrying out their official duties. And as the U.S. Attorney points out, this arrest was totally justified. The illegal had prior arrests for serious drug trafficking offenses, you know, the ones that kill your kids, and was arrested with a valid federal warrant. And of course, the federal judges in D.C. are no better. The judge trying to stop Trump from using the Supreme Court upheld the Alien Enemies Act to deport illegals, held a hearing today as he tries to decide whether to hold Trump administration in contempt for deporting illegal immigrants, in this case, Trendy Aragua gang members. But the Trump team, they are undeterred, and they keep getting results. Illegal crossings at the southern border last month were down to just 7,000 in March, down from nearly 200,000 in March of last year. How does the left respond? Holding a protest, as usual, this weekend in upstate New York. That includes a planned march past the home of border czar Tom Homan, who joins us right now with much more. This doxing thing, if it keeps going on, and it's now happening to you, somebody's going to get killed here. They're doing it to Supreme Court justices, elected officials. You see what's happening at Tesla dealerships and charging stations around the country. What's your reaction now that it's happening to you?
Well, look, I'm not going to be bullied. I'm not going to be intimidated. We'll keep doing what we're doing. Like you said, the border numbers are historic low. Sean, I started in 1984 as a border agent. I've never seen the numbers this low. This is historic. And tomorrow, ICE is going to hit 50,000 arrests in the interior. And more than 35,000 are significant public safety threats. I was looking at the numbers earlier. 3,749 dangerous drug convictions. 1,042 aliens with weapons convictions. 969 illegal aliens with sexual assault convictions, 379 murder convictions. So we're hitting the ground running. We're not going to stop.
Everybody subscribe to the Amish King.
I want to double down what you said, Sean. If we don't get the money, we can't arrest the most significant public safety threats in this country. We need money to do the operations. We need money to buy beds. We need money for airplane flights. We need money to detail agents to sanctuary cities. We need money or this stuff's going to slow down.
What do you make of the DA in Suffolk County in Massachusetts that says the ICE agent arrested the illegal in the middle of a trial and deprived the illegal of his rights?
What rights? He's not a citizen.
He's doing his job, and he has jurisdiction over local jurisdiction. It's pretty outrageous that the people that are aiding and abetting illegals vis-a-vis sanctuary cities and states, that they never get held accountable. I think that's got to be the next step, no?
Yeah, DOJ's won't take it on. We'll win the case, but I'm proud of that agent. They did exactly what he should have done. He took a dangerous person off the street because he would have been released. He would have gotten bail. It's a sanctuary state, and the judge will lose this. And I hope the judge gets embarrassed on this. Federal law is always going to trump local law. So God bless that agent for sticking to his willpower and taking this person into custody. There's one less bad guy in the street. Every bad guy we take off the street makes this country safe. President Trump made a promise to the American people. We're going to make this country safe again. We're going to start with foreign nationals, foreign illegal aliens that commit crimes in this country, and we're doing exactly what Trump promised. We're keeping his promise. We're making this country safe again. One day at a time, one illegal alien at a time. We're going to keep going.
All right, a couple of other updates. You have this crazed nut job who posted a video online encouraging people to open fire on ICE agents. That individual's been arrested for making terrorist threats. You also have in Long Island, New York, ICE agents capture an MS-13 gangbanger serial killer. What can you tell us about those two cases?
Well, look, the one making threats against federal officers, he needs to be arrested, needs to be locked up, and hopefully that sends a message. If you want to threaten ICE officers, if you want to come to my home this weekend and try to terrorize my family, you're going to be held accountable. People have the right to protest, and they have their First Amendment rights, but you don't have a right to dox federal agents. You don't have a right to threaten their safety or their family safety. Well, I'm talking to you right now, Sean. I have Virginia State Troopers 24/7 around my home because death threats against me and my family. They just don't get it. Like I said earlier, I'm not going to be bullied. I'm not going to be intimidated. I'm going to keep doing my job. But it's just unfortunate that we've got to spend all this money and resources to protect agents who are simply enforcing the law. We're at a point now where the ones who carry the badge and gun, the ones who enforce the law, they're the bad guys now. And the ones who break the law are the victims. The whole world's upside down. Thank God we got President Trump back in the Oval Office. He's going to turn this back around where it's supposed to be. Law enforcement can be respected again, and the bad guys are on the run, and they should be on the run, and we're going to not stop looking for them. So, again, thank God we got President Trump back in the Oval Office, because things are going to change quickly. They already are. Thank God we have tough guys like you, too, that can take this heat. It's not easy. It's not good for your family. I'm sure it's not pleasant, but they're messing with the wrong guy. I can tell them that up front. Tom Homan, thank you. We appreciate it. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox.
What's this?
So, I mean, we watched what happened in the markets yesterday, and it was expected, but it was pretty steep, and nobody likes to look at their 401k. The Dow down almost 4%, S&P and NASDAQ down, and we'll see where it goes today. But I think the one thing that could reverse the trend is when these countries, if the president accepts their call and their offer, because he also wants the revenue, if these countries come in and say, we're zeroing out our tariffs, we're going to match you with our tariffs. For example, I'm a little confused that Vietnam came in 2 days ago and they said, we'll zero out our tariffs, but the president still slammed them, and we do a lot of textile work there. And then Israel said, we'll zero out our tariffs, and the president still hit them. So I don't know if that's a clerical thing, or is we have to go with the trade representative and work that into the budget. But what's amazing to me, guys, is that Nancy Pelosi sounds like Donald Trump today. Our great staff got this fantastic clip from 1996, because this has been a concern for years, from Donald Trump when he was just a businessman, from certain lawmakers, a lot of Democrats, that our free trade agreements that were going to hurt the worker. And guys like Ross Perot in 1992 said it. But listen to Pelosi, different hairstyle, same woman, and by the way, original hips, 1996, June 27th.
That we know of. In terms of tariffs, I think it's interesting to note that the average U.S. MFN tariff on Chinese goods coming into the United States is 2%, whereas the average Chinese MFN tariff on U.S. goods going into China is 35%. Is that reciprocal? In terms of jobs, this is the biggest and cruelest hoax of all. Not only do we not have market access, not only do they have prohibitive tariffs, not only are our exports not let in very specifically, but China benefits with at least 10 million jobs from U.S.-China trade. China trade supports 170,000 jobs in the United States, 170,000 jobs, whereas Our imports from China support 10 million jobs at least. The fact is that U.S.-China trade is a job loser.
I just find this incredible, Angela and Brian. You know, they give speeches all the time, but the passion that she speaks when she's talking about this issue, I mean, I was 4 at the time when she gave this speech. What changed? Has she evolved on the issue, or does she not like the person that is now supporting essentially everything that she just said in that clip?
Yeah, I know. Several things are going through my mind when you watch that clip. That you were 4. I just finished my freshman year of college. And she sounds like Donald Trump now. That's how far their party has gone. It's either that or they just hate Donald Trump so much they're melting down. They haven't even given this a minute. This all just happened. So we've got to take a breath. The markets will calm down next week. We knew the markets were going to be volatile because of all this uncertainty. It's always been that way. And so Secretary Brooke Rollins says there will be a short term of uncertainty, and then we'll move back to the prosperity that the president's envisioned. Donald Trump says we're already getting chips, we're already getting steel factories coming in. GM, the car company, is ramping up production in the United States, increasing their U.S. truck production by hiring temporary employees at the Fort Wayne, Indiana assembly plant. But you have these Democrats that are melting down. They are now planning to force a vote to kill these tariffs, which they probably don't have the votes to do. And then when it comes to TikTok, that's a big deal. This weekend is the deadline. So Donald Trump is saying, if China wants to negotiate on tariffs, do a deal on TikTok, and maybe I'll consider it. Listen.
For instance, with TikTok as an example, we have the situation with TikTok where China will probably say, we'll approve a deal, but will you do something on the tariff? The tariffs give us great power to negotiate. Always have. I've used them very well in the first administration, as you saw, but now we're taking it to a whole new level because it's a worldwide situation. And it's very exciting to see.
Is that something that you've floated to them or you've heard from them? Or
I'm just using that as an example. Let's say we had a problem with TikTok, and let's say China wasn't going to approve. We could use tariffs in order to get it approved. You know,
The deadline is
give them something in return.
Brian?
So a couple of things. Number one, when it comes to TikTok, we're going to talk about that later, but the sale has got to be complete. They can't have any sign of the algorithm because it's a national security interest. I don't care about the money. They're not going to want to sell because this is all about espionage in my view. But the president's saying, I'm going to use leverage when I can. And if I want something done, whether it's Russia, whether it's whether it's something in the Middle East, if Jordan wants a break or whatever it is, if they could do something on Gaza, I will use all levers of power. And I think it's true. Also, General Motors came out and said, we'll be making operational adjustments to Fort Wayne, as you guys mentioned. Ford has already said they're making adjustments, people coming home. He mentioned that Oracle is going to do the TikTok deal. They'll be at the hub of it. And word from Charles Gasparino with the TikTok deal, they don't believe Amazon should be a part of it. They got so many products from China there, it might be a little bit difficult to sign off on. But J.D. Vance was sitting down with you, Lawrence, and here's what he said about the deal that could come down today.
We've been working very hard, me and the president, the entire team, to really accomplish two things. First of all, you want to make sure that the TikTok app in the United States is not spying on people. Right. That's good for national security. You also want to give people access to this incredible platform, which, as we know, that's where a lot of young people get their news. That's where a lot of young people found out about the policies of the Trump administration. And we got to accomplish both of those things. I think that we're in a good place. We're going to keep on working at it, but I'll let the president make that announcement.
If it doesn't come out before the deadline, because I know the president extended.
It'll come out before the deadline.
Will come out
we need a couple days to continue working on it, to finalize some things. And of course, we're going to let the president announce whatever we ultimately decide.
Right. Just quick thing. We want that deal to come, but it's mainly a security thing. And we also have to put something out there that stops China from launching another app or anybody, North Korea, that becomes popular again. But the only thing I want to add is Trump's doing everything at once. Keep an eye on the big, beautiful bill making its way through the Senate.
That's right.
These are all, normally it's bill, 6 months off, trade deal, 6 months off. Trump's doing everything at once. So when the bill comes through with making the tax cuts permanent and it gets to the House, they work it out later in the spring. That's going to be a boon to the market. So I'm not Stuart Barney or Larry Kudlow, but don't overreact to today and tomorrow or yesterday. focus on the value of these companies because nothing has really changed, guys.
Well, the deadline is tomorrow. So it sounds like JD Vance says it's going to happen before the deadline, which means today. So maybe we'll hear something about this. We'll continue to watch this. But is there any way that you think he could push the deadline farther down the road like he's done in the past?
He could, but as I asked JD Vance yesterday, what's going to happen if they...
Well, guys, that's all for today's episode. It's been a long live stream. Hit the like and subscribe button if you enjoyed this content. I have other live streams and videos on my channel, travel videos about living in Montenegro and the Amish. And yeah, no, I actually don't live in the Amish. It's just a joke from his comments, but appreciate it, guys. Peace out. Have a good day.